All right, my clock shows 10:30, which means we're going to get started here. We've got a lot to cover today in our final spring NAU Country Connection webinar of 2021. I am Katie Ferrier LaMere. I'm the Senior IT Marketing and Training Specialist with NAU Country, and we're going to go over today our field level data at your fingertips with Field Insights. Now, Field Insights is one of our flagship farmer tools. We've been talking a lot throughout the entire spring about other tools that are beneficial not only to agents but to our farmers. If you're familiar with Field Insights or have used it before, you may see a couple new things, but a lot of the data and functionality is still the same. This is just more of a refresher. So, all right, just going over the basic agenda today. What we're going to go over is access to Field Insights for agents and farmers. We'll go over our basic navigation of the tool, as well as the data. So our map layers, our components, some cool nerdy weather data that we'll go over, and then we'll talk about our frost alerts and some of the notifications that we have available through Field Insights. We'll also touch briefly on NAU Country Mobile. I'm going to try to show my iPad. If that's not playing nice with me today, I do have plenty of screenshots with lots of circles and arrows on there that we can kind of show for that. We all know that NAU Country Mobile is also available to agents and farmers via mobile. You can use it on your iPad, iPhone, or Android device. Preferences may also be set here, so we'll kind of walk through that. Resources, I will show just really quickly our user guide for our agents. We also have a farmer edition that's more pertaining to the language and the things that they will see when they're in the farmer portal or through the mobile app. Today, we will not be covering how to enter acreages in easy mapping or setting up an actual farmer account, since we've talked about that before in previous webinars, and we've got plenty of tips and tricks in our agent portal available to you that will be very helpful if you need to use them in the future. Okie dokie. All right. First things first, there's a couple different ways that we can access Field Insights through the agent portal. One, and I'm sure you're familiar with this already, if you've accessed the agent portal, after you've logged in, you will see this menu option that says My Farmers. You can actually click on My Farmers, or you can click on a direct link straight to Field Insights. I'll show both of these here in a second. But also we've got this large blue button just for easy, simple navigation straight to the source. Just for to show you guys how it looks from looking if you've got multiple farmers. I'm going to click on the My Farmers link first. Okie doke. All right, so we've got a list of individual insureds that I'm working with here, and let's say that I want to look at Hahn Farms. So I would click on that link, and you would see the policy number or information, and some of their information, including their county and crop, and then some quick links. This is another location that we can also access Field Insights. A couple weeks ago, we talked about Easy View Weather, the hail viewer. That is also a possibility to access through the quick links, as well as policy documents, claims, and loss notice information here. I'll show you quickly in preferences from a policyholder perspective. And if I'm using the words insured, farmer, and policyholder kind of interchangeably, I'm meaning the same thing. I'm just trying to keep it consistent. So I apologize. I hope not to be confusing here. If we wanted to check and see if our farmer has a farmer portal account or any preferences from an alert and notification perspective from the computer standpoint, we could log in and check them out through the My Farmers, make sure they've got an email, make sure their contact information is correct here. And then we can also see if they have notifications checked on or off. Some of them, as an agent, we have the ability to add for them. The one that I'm going to go into detail a little bit later, closer to the end of this call today on, is our frost notifications. The frost notifications, we do not have as an agent the ability to turn that on for the farmer. That is going to be something that they can set themselves while logged in through either NAU Country Mobile or through the farmer portal on their computer. So I just wanted to show you that this is another location that we can just see different alerts, notifications, and kind of the settings for that farmer. All right, I'm going to go back, since we've already looked at how we can access Field Insights from the My Farmer section. I'm going to just navigate to Field Insights from that location as well. I can search for policies here this is a common window that we've seen before, searching by the last or business name of the policy number. I've always got a tool tip that shows how or what I can search by for the criteria in this box. Basically, It doesn't work with hail policies, that do not have an associated MPCI policy. But one of the new things that we've added to Field Insights just recently in the last couple of months is that we have, since we've always been compatible with map policies, we also now have extended this functionality to farmers with unmapped fields. That's including if they've got an unmapped MPCI policy, PRF, whole farm, dairy revenue protection, including livestock, LRP, LGM policies too. I just wanted to kind of call that out. The other thing I want to note too, since we're searching for Field Insights, I'm going to click on this dashboard up button. This will appear in a couple different locations. So I just want to kind of get it out of the way here to show you what it looks like from the original. Here I can still search policies, say if I've got that same criteria, last name, business name, policy number, or like I was saying, if I have a new prospective farmer that I would like to show the functionality of this product to them without having to, create a whole new account and anything like that. We have the ability to create a new prospect and show the functionality of Field Insights through this tool. We can save that prospect. So if we need to return to it to kind of circle back with that farmer, see if they're interested in signing on with us, we can click on a saved prospect, and I'll show you how these two all work together. And then we also have the ability, when I brought up 2 weeks ago in a connections call, which is actually also available on our NAU Country YouTube channel, Easy View Weather, we can actually search for Easy View Weather as a hail event, just for either an address search, or once we get into Field Insights, I'll show you how we can do it so that it matches up to our policy too. Let's jump into Create New Prospect. And let's say that I'm meeting with Farmer John, and he wants to just check this out. I'm going to just keep this right now as Prospect 2. I'll show you how we can change the name here in just a little bit. And Field Insights will begin to prepare to open. The first window that we're going to see is a window pop-up that says Location Search. This is non-discriminatory. You literally can write anything from a grocery store to a city state. See, there's actually a tooltip that will show you that we've got an extremely flexible search. You can do a Statue of Liberty. You can do anything that you want to, or even a lat and lawn. I am going to search by a city and state quickly, just to show you how this works. I would click Go. And if there's multiple addresses, you may see a list for you to choose from, kind of similar to what you might do if you do a Google search for a location on your phone. But so you notice nothing really shows up right off the bat except for the location on the map. Here's Colfax, North Dakota. We've got our basic navigation along the top that would bring us back to that dashboard. Plus we could print, plus we could see our map and our component tabs showing up here. I can zoom in and out of the map. I'll try not to make anybody dizzy here right off the bat. But let's say that I want to see how this actually works with some of our information right off the bat. Just by location, I could overlay some data here right off. I'm just going to see if we've got radar in the last 2 hours. I don't think that we had any radar here up in parts of North Dakota. I'll show the air temperature too. Our data does overlay on the map. And then we've got some basic navigation on the map. First things first is we would have a farm view, a location view. That would be if I'm searching for my particular location. I could search for a location since I'm in prospect mode. I could also do a zoom in and zoom out. I could change the map background to just a regular map background versus satellite and radar, or satellite, I should say, sorry. And then I could also change the opacity of our data layer. I'm going to go back to my dashboard and I'm going to open a saved prospect that I have in here. Notice that we've got some existing prospects right off the bat, Prospect 1 and Prospect 2. Prospect 1 I had set up just a couple of days ago. Let's say that I met with a farmer and we were just showing just some of the data layers within Field Insights, and then we wanted to return back to it today. We set up an appointment for later today. I'm going to click on that and we'll say reviewed if I've been in it more recently, which I just was this morning. we'll take just a second. We are in our demo system, just so you know, so it might be a little bit delayed just from loading up and showing some of the layers here, but in our regular production system, it shouldn't be a problem. Just want to let you know that. So if I'm looking at this prospect that I've saved before, you'll notice that I've got two new features on the left-hand side. These are called field cards, and I was able to input these for our prospective farmer based on information that they wanted to give me. I'm going to go back and search for a location, or I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm going to go back to my dashboard. I'm going to create a new prospect again. I'm going to click OK. And I'm doing this because I'm not seeing something that I want to see, and it might just be because I'm in my demo system where we are able to add new data points. Whoops, Colfax, there we go. If we click on a field or a field point from this location, you'll notice that it will start to highlight in yellow surround. If it's just a location, not necessarily a field with CLU data, it might just come up as a field point. But if I click on the field, I'm able to click add or edit, and the FTF information would start to appear if that's what it applies to. I click on the field card itself. I'm able to click edit field, and I can change this quickly if I need to. The field acres already showed up. I don't have a farm name here as of right now, but the basic information that we'll end up seeing here in our edit field box or pop-up box is that we get to answer a couple of questions. Are we irrigated here? Do we know if we've got surface drainage or drainage tile? If this is our new farmer, they'd be able to give you this information. And then we'd also be able to ask them, what kind of a crop do you have on this particular field? Obviously, since they're not a customer of ours yet, if we're in prospect mode, they'd be able to just give us some basic info. If we've got 77 acres, I'm just going to write 77, going to type in planted date, and then genetic diversity. We will need to enter the genetic diversity for our supported top crops, barley, canola, corn, cotton, grain, sorghum, peanuts, potatoes, silage sorghum, soybeans, spring wheat, sugar beets, sunflowers, winter wheat. Those mean we need to have that genetic diversity to assist us with some of the data that we're able to show through field insights, including our harvest advisor and our spray advisor and our growth models. So right now, I'm just going to enter in a certain genetic diversity. This would be, you know, how many day corn we're actually going to buy. Let's see, save. We'll click on this. And you'll notice in our field card, we've got our FTF that I just edited and updated it really quickly. We've got our crop that we've entered, and we've got our shape file for the actual field. And then we also have some more additional information that I'll go over here once we get into a mapped policy. But the cool thing is that now if we're showing this to our prospective client that, hey, we can see what are the wind gusts in our area, you know, if you want to get out to do some spraying here later on today, this would be the current wind gusts. If what we're thinking is what are the max wind speeds going to be over the next 24 hours, this would be a way to see data over their field that they've just entered in. And then we've got matching legends, by the way, for every single layer that we have in our map layers. And if we need more information on a specific map layer, we'd be able to click this question mark, which brings up a pop-up and kind of gives us more information, maybe perhaps scenario info as to why this particular layer would be important, as well as the repeat of the legend. So if this is a prospect that I've got an actual name for, I don't need to just leave it generic. I could just do this as his name. I could type that in by using and clicking on that pencil and changing that out to personalize it a little bit more. And then we could leave them with a map book. By clicking this PDF icon to the right, it will start to generate a map book. It takes a second just to download it, and then a pop-up window will appear once it says, are you ready to download this map book? Should be ready to go. I could say, yes, I would like to download this. I do have sometimes it takes a little bit longer in our demo policy to go through it, but we do have a couple of different options here to show you. One from a couple days ago that I built just to show you how different fields or multiple fields would look like. And we could leave this with our farmer, showing them how our systems look when we give them a map book and how they would be able to report information back to us if they needed to. Got another one here. This one, remember, we kind of changed the name. We've got our agency information along the top. Obviously, it won't say demo, but it does because that's the system that I'm in. It will have map information included as well as the crop information. So that's just 2 examples of a map book that we could send. Also in the navigation here along the top, we've got an opportunity to print. This would just print our field cards, and I will be going over this in detail once we get into a map policy here. We're just using this just to show what it looks like. Okay, so that's the prospect mode for now. Let's say that Farmer John isn't interested, or we're not expecting to see him again, or we want to redo the whole thing later anyway. We can actually delete this particular prospect by clicking this button in the upper right corner. It looks like a circle with a minus symbol in it. Then we would permanently delete that by clicking yes. All right. Next, we're going to jump into how a map policy would actually look in Field Insights. So this is an actual farmer. This is somebody that we'd want to review maybe some data for them. Maybe they're in the office with us that afternoon. I'm going to search policies here. And I'm in the dashboard. Let me just grab my policy number really quickly. I'm going to type that in. And if they have multiple years with a policy with us, you may see at the very end 21 or 2019, 18. I've just got 1 year on this one, so I'm just going to click on the most recent or whichever one that you'd like to show you can. It's just going to take a second here just to open. Sure, everything's loading. There we go. Okay, so this is Han Farms, and we've got our basic information along the top. We've got our dashboard button that would bring us back to the ability to search or do a prospect again since I'm in the agent portal. We have the ability to print off our field cards on the left-hand side, and then we can actually jump into Easy View Weather, which we looked at a couple of weeks ago in a connection call, but it would be based on this specific policy, which is kind of cool. Then just below that, we've got, they don't look like links, but they are. This would bring us back to the home of the agent portal. My Farmers would bring us back to me as an agent, all of my farmers list, and then it's just kind of breadcrumbs going out further and further to the policy information. Along the right, we know that this little folder has an M. That means it's an MPCI policy. And then we've got the policy information and the name of the insured. As we were going over some of the map navigation before, I was showing you that we've got our map tab that will show map layer data. We'll go over some of this in detail as long as time allows here today. Then we also have component data, which is not map based, but it is at a field level. And it looks like a short list here, but I'm telling you, it is packed with tons of useful information and popular tools that we've already been using since this product started with Spray Advisor, Crop Growth and Harvest. We've got some updates there, as well as historical weather too. So we'll go over that here kind of closer to the end of this section of the call. And again, if I wanted to show just some of the basic navigation from the map, I'm going to click on a layer here just so I have something to show. If I wanted to zoom to my farm view, that will zoom out and show all of my individual fields that are currently highlighted in white. I know this looks like a very busy, kind of aggressive looking map because it's so red, but I'm going to change the opacity of my data layer down to transparent. I can bring it back up if I need to. And once again, here's the transparency of the satellite map. If I wanted to find my location, that would be my current, me personally, my current geographic location. That's a moot point here. But if I was out in the field and I wanted to see where am I, then which field am I on? Maybe we don't remember every single field name by the field card. This would be a useful tool out in the field. Then we can also zoom in, which I was already doing before, and zoom it out. Okie doke. I'm going to click on this just to clear layer just so it's a little bit easier to see. We'll go over some of the actual information in the field card. The top, again, would be our FSN tract field number and then our crop type. We've got our field shape file. The links along the top actually show our precipitation. If I click on this little raindrop here, it will show in the past 24 hours and then precipitation since midnight. And this continuously updates. You notice it's 10:50 a.m. at least Central Time for us. So this will continuously update. If I check this in another hour, it would show up as 11:50. So in the past 24 hours, it just shows how much rain we've seen and then just since that day, since midnight. Then we have our CLU acres, which in this case, this particular field that I've now got highlighted in green just by clicking on the field card shows 47.17 acres. We have our NAU Country field number just below that, F1. And then we actually have our township range and section number. And if there is none for this one, it would end up showing the FTF once again. Below that, we have our share percentage, and this is tied to if you've used Easy Mapping before through Easy Writer Pro, and like I said, we're not going to go into Easy Mapping to report acreage or anything right now, but Easy Mapping and Field Insights talk to each other simultaneously. We'll get information from Easy Mapping, and then Field Insights can also send over too. We've got a share percentage. This would be normally almost 9 times out of 10, this is going to show 100%. I've got a little more information just so I don't repeat myself like 7 times on that too. If we've got, if we want, they will be able to, the farmers will be able to put in, how much of a share they've got for their farm by unit in Easy Mapping, but this is just showing from a Field Insights perspective, just as an FYI. If there is a share that is pulling over from Easy Mapping, we will see that listed here if it's like 33% or 50%. This farmhouse, also kind of similar up to this icon in the map, is going to be what our farm name would be listed as if that was written down and input into Easy Mapping. Next, here on the right-hand side, we do have the ability to view the field accessibility. We've got 3 different options: good, marginal, and poor. And they will have different color chips. Right now we're at marginal for this particular map. Let me look through some of the other fields. I think that they've gotten a lot of rain in this area. So right now we're looking at marginal no matter what. Poor would be if we're pretty saturated or if it's just not really good conditions to get out into the field with equipment. I will show you that our system is intelligent enough for you to be able to change this accessibility given the conditions that the farmer would know, or maybe you as the agent and the farmer would know together. Yeah, you can get into the field. Maybe the conditions really are good, but our system is saying, well, marginal maybe, just as a safety point. Our system has AI enough to learn if you change the field accessibility, and I will show that here in a second. We can also edit the information for this field by clicking on this tab. I just showed this earlier in that prospect mode. It's the same here for our active policies. We've got the FTF here along the top. We will, although not required, the field properties, including irrigated surface drainage and drainage tile. It's not required information, but really to utilize and get the best use out of Field Insights, we're going to want to have them center around this and actually fill this out. So I'm going to say yes for irrigated, average for surface drain, maybe I'll say good, and then drainage tile, I'm going to change to yes. The user acreage, if there's already information in here, I was just kind of playing around earlier and entering in some data from a couple of different dates here. I'm going to change this over to that date. And then I changed my genetic diversity. If I wanted to remove a user acreage, this is all manual. I could remove it just like that, re-add it quickly. Let's quickly do this one last time. Whoopsies, I'll go back down to here. Okay. I could change that and add that and click save, and then this will all update once again. By the way, just as an FYI, you see down at the bottom of this edit field card, we've got RMA crop insurance acreage. Now, again, how I was talking about easy mapping, if we've already worked with our farmers to enter their acreage and we've already submitted it to RMA, we would see that information for this particular field already here. Doesn't necessarily mean, especially if your farmers never used Field Insights, they probably wouldn't see any manual user acreage in this listing. It would automatically override with RMA crop insurance acreage down below. Let's say that this is soybeans right now, and we had 47 acres planted, and it was this date. Since this was designed for farmers to kind of be able to navigate, experiment, test out things. Maybe they wanted to switch crops to the next year to corn, and check what the growth chart and harvest rate would be, and or harvest date would be. They can add a different acreage manually, and that once in field insights, if we already had soybeans down in the RMA acreage, would override the system, at least through a field insights way. It will not update on the policy. I'm going to click save on this. So nothing really changed other than I had just changed some dates of planting and whatnot here on the back end. So nothing really changed in the field card. Also to note, when you want to navigate around field insights, if you click on any of the field cards, it will zoom around the map to that particular location. You'll know that it's highlighted or that you're active in it if it's highlighted in green. All right. Let's see here. I am just looking to see where I'm at. We're at 10:59, about halfway through. Any questions so far? Okay. Let's see here. Let's get into our actual data. This is the fun part. Okay, so I'm going to zoom out just a little bit because sometimes the data can be a bit overwhelming when everything's so close to each other from like a geographic visual standpoint. Think of us as in a drone, really close over top of the field. We want to zoom out just a little bit since weather data is not that small for the most part. So we'll go into a couple of different things. We'll look at maybe our precip probability for the next 24 hours. We can also look at current radar and forecast data. And then a legend will appear along the bottom. If it's anything that needs to be played, like as in not a movie, but as in an option to scroll through information, you'll see a player down along the bottom too. So just to zoom out, because it looks like we've got some likely chances for rain over my particular farm field. See, even as I zoom out, I've still got, can kind of see them, they're really small. Highlighted in white, our actual farm view here in the center. But this is what I know. If I was going to be going out in the field, I would want to know if I'm going to get rain in the next 24 hours. If I was going to do any spraying, I'd want to know that too. And we can kind of drill down to hours for that as well. But this would just at least show us precipitation probability over the next 24 hours. And again, that tooltip will show information as well as the legend. We showed the air temperatures earlier. Maximum air temperature is going to be warm. Got our current wind speeds and gusts. So there's a lot of kind of the same information that you'd probably be able to see in a weather app that you have on your phone, or if you search for on your computer, we've got here as well. Then we get to soil. Now this is one of my favorite things, is to show this, and this may take just a little second to update some of the information because it's a lot of data. We have soil layers in abundance, if I could say it that way. We've got multiple different layers, and they all have wonderful uses. Some of them kind of overlap in the usability for our farmers or what they would use it for. But the great thing is that every single one of these we have a description for, we have a legend for, and we also have kind of a case scenario including our map unit, soil moisture, soil temp, you name it, we've got it. Even down to drought, we can show our drought index and show the ability or the option of seeing wetlands too. I'm going to zoom in kind of closer to my farm view just to be able to click a location. It is just taking just a second to update. It is a lot of data. Okay, so notice what I'm showing here, and I'm going to just bring this up just a bit more so that it's more opaque. If I'm clicking on any of my fields, I will end up getting, we're in this map units soil data layer. I will get this pop-up window that shows individual ratings slash information just about this particular soil on this field, which is kind of interesting and cool. And then I will show how we have this also in our components too. But this is nationwide, and not to reread. I know you guys can read this just fine, but this isn't just made up data. This is a lot of our data that we have for soil in particular comes from different databases of reputable sources. This is, the NRCS Surgo data set, which is just a compilation of soils and information collected over the last century. So this is good to interpret unique properties, delineate soil types, and look at suitability for certain farmland. Kind of zooms in and it shows that different delineation of different colors and everything here too. So that's one of our soil layers. We've got soil moisture, which is also another interesting one. Again, I can kind of remove that opacity. And every single one, I won't reread every one of these. I just wanted to show you that we do have the descriptions and what the legends kind of match up with the color tables too. One of my favorites, I'm a meteorologist, so I'm kind of a nerd about this stuff personally, is albedo. If you don't know what albedo it is, measures the reflectivity of an object. Black surfaces or darker surfaces absorb more heat and more energy and do not reflect light as well as lighter colored surfaces. So this one in particular, although it looks kind of like just a tan map, it is actually showing the soil absorption and salinity detection and what that actually proves. We've got, the actual measured scale of 0, no light reflected, to 1, which is 100% of the light reflected. So the lighter would be, everything would be reflected. So we've got some decent soil absorption here. Then I'll show, just because this has been kind of topic and top of mind for several people around the country, not just maybe for this particular farm view, but we do have access to the Palmer Drought Index data. And this map, it just may take a second here because we're in our system to appear. This will be updated weekly, and as we've seen, drought conditions have increased in several areas around the country. Nothing in particular here for our particular farm view in Louisiana, but we've also been talking about the North Plains up in North Dakota and Montana, and also out west still looking quite dry, and even into the Great Lakes area. We've seen quite an increase in drought too. So that's just something that we can show our farmers, or your farmers can log in through the farmer portal and view that themselves if they're just interested. More just informational here. Sorry, this keeps rolling up. I keep clicking and I think my mouse just moves around a little bit. So that's basically, just for sake of time, what I'm going to show you from the map layer information. And I encourage you to head out there whenever you get a chance. You can either do it as prospect mode if you don't have a current farmer that you want to use, or you can show one of the farmers how to use this by just clicking around and just checking it out, read a little bit more about it. I'm going to show you really fast in our user guide. It is a large document, and I know sometimes that's a little daunting to kind of check out. We do have our user guide. I will be sending this in our recap as well. But in all of our tips and tricks, we've got this linked out for our agents. And we have infinite descriptions and case scenarios of everything having to do with field insights, and including all of our individual layers and how they would be used by farmers, or how they could be used by farmers. And it's it's really interesting information. I learned a lot. I'm not a farmer personally. Again, I'm a background in meteorology, so some of this was really informational, just to see how this can really be helpful for all different types of people. So, and then we do go into, like I said, I was going to show you more about frost alerts. We go through that. We go through how to use the mobile app. You name it. We just have a lot of information ready and available with more descriptions to you if you just want some more info. All right. Also, we can clear our layers by clicking on that map layer dropdown. That will go back to, I'm going to go back to one individual field. And we're going to click on our components. Now, some of these have been updated in the last, I'd say 6 months. And so if you've already been out there, you may have already seen some of this. We've already, we've also shared some news stories about it, some social media. It's all updated in our user guide as well. The functionality changed just slightly, but the data has also improved and has kind of remained the same. We're going to click on field conditions first, and this looks really similar, maybe just a slight graphical change compared to what we had before. but it shows 3 different tabs once we click in there. This is, as you noticed, is not connected to the map. It is connected to the field. So we've got our current conditions. This would be our current weather information. Precipitation, this is kind of a cool graphic just showing us that yes, we've had over 2 feet of rain in the past 90 days in my particular farm view on this field in Louisiana. And then remember how I was talking to you about accessibility, where we can change this, say that I understand this the way that conditions are right now, that my accessibility is actually good. I could change that from marginal to good right here in our current conditions. Once I do that, the color chip will change to green and we'll start to learn based on the information that this system is seeing right now and the conditions that have happened or forecast to happen or are currently happening. And we'll start to remember, hey, I remember if 73 degrees and this is our moisture content, we probably have decent accessibility. So that's just something that you can show your farmers and you can change and it will start to learn. Our 10-day forecast looks a little bit different now, a little bit more updated. We've got more graphic representation of our daily soil temperature, precipitation accumulation, and wind speeds and air temperatures. We also have different tool tips that kind of the hover informational bubbles that show up once you kind of go through the timelines too. This shows out with a slider bar out to the left to right for your next 10 days. It starts with today. If I clicked on a day card, I'm going to click on tomorrow. It will show me my hourly information in the same stretch here. Let's just say for fun, we wanted to expand this particular graph just to get a better look at it. I know my eyes aren't that great, so this might help somebody else other than me. And if we wanted to, we could print this graph. Most of our graphics are able to be printed here with some of the data. There we go, just to show you the preview. And I could change the layout to landscape or whatnot if it makes more sense. There we go. That's just an option. And then to bring it back, you just click that expand button back. And I could go back to the 10-day forecast and it brings me back to my daily information rather than hourly. Planting conditions. This is also utilized pretty well. We've got our days on the left-hand side and then our hours down on the bottom. And then each hourly accessibility or wetness and daily kind of has their own legend here that it should match up to. So good would be green, poor obviously in the red. And it just shows hour by hour if I hover over each individual chip, what I'm looking at for that particular time and date. Again, these can be expanded and printed as well. Another popular one, a tool that we use is our Spray Advisor. Now, if we've gotten our field information edited in our field card, we should be able to utilize this to the best of our ability. So field or wind direction, none of this has really changed. We've used this product for a couple of years now here within Field Insights, and most of this should look the same until we get to the actual forecast. It changed just a little bit from a graphical perspective, but I'm going to set some criteria here to exclude for winds for spraying, and I'm really not, having any rhyme or reason here, so forgive me if something looks kind of weird. I'm going to choose a max wind speed of 15 miles an hour. I can also make these go back, and I'm going to click submit, or I could clear all too. And then what appears is kind of another similar kind of graphic chip view. We've got our daily summary with our criteria that I've been trying to map and follow or exclude, I guess I should say, from winds. And then we've got our individual days that show up here along the top. Our farmers can print this off. We've got our data set here on the left with days, then by hours. Data unavailable basically just means that we're already up to this point. So we're at on the 2nd up to 11 a.m. looking at when spray criteria has been met or not been met. So based on that, we're just trying to make sure, when can we actually get out into the field should be in these blue areas here. And I can show you, let me go out one more day. It's a little bit easier to see. On the 3rd, we've got our summary along the top. We've got our wind directions. If it's not met, it's just because we're trying to exclude that north wind here, and that's why it shows up in black. It doesn't mean that maybe we shouldn't get out there, but our other criteria was showing that, we're not going to look at a rain-free time that you wanted to have of 3 hours within this time frame either. So anything in the blue, we should be good to go to get out and do some spraying. If our farmer needs to change that criteria, can click Show Criteria, click Clear All, set it back again if they need to, and should be good to go. Clear all, and I'll show you how that looks. All right, next we'll jump into our crop growth and eventually our harvest advisor, another helpful tool. And this will take just a second. All right, a lot of data here. So our growth chart now this is based on the fact that I've got corn set, and starting with what day did I plant it, it will start showing the temperature range, the growing degree days, or accumulated growing degree days, I should say. And then as we go through the timeline, you'll see the growth stage, what it's supposed to be, what the date is supposed to be, as well as a picture of what it might look like. And as we just kind of go through different stages, it'll show you more information here too. It's moving just a little bit slower. That's okay though. And then of course we have our legend down on the bottom. We're out of the frost risk. Just kind of moving forward. It's kind of sticking here right now. And we could also print this off as well for our farmers if they wanted to get a good idea of what the forecast could potentially be. But you might be saying, well, it's June 2nd and I'm still not seeing what stage is it. The next stage would be 6 leaves. Let's just say we're not even there yet. There is a way that we can change that. Based on our observations, we can change the growth chart by adding observations to the growth data tab. If we've got, it will show which one we should be at most recently. If I notice that it wasn't on the 30th, I know that, I could click this little observation icon. Or here, I'll go up to the last one actually. Go back. Are you going to do it? There we go. Sorry, we'll click on the date. I was clicking on the wrong thing. We'll click on the date and we can change this to, you know what? I actually didn't see it until the 1st of June. I know I'm picking like a random day. Maybe doesn't make any sense, but just to show how it works, I'm just going to do that. I would click enter. That should save, and you'll see this on the right column. All of these dates start to change based on my observation and based on what the forecast usually is for this particular type of corn. Now that's where that genetic diversity comes in play, is that if we've got that information set based on the type of seed that we've got, you can kind of play around with this to see how long it will take to get to, emergence or 6 leaves or down to, the actual maturity of the plant. So that's why that is important data, and it's fun to kind of use just to do different observations to see where we'd be at. To note, at the end of our growth chart here, will lead into Harvest Advisor. So the last day of the growth chart ends up picking up right back where we're at in our Harvest Advisor, or what we've called our infield dry down. This is just a set target moisture of 15.5. Your farmer, you can change this to anything that you would like it to be. I'm going to change it to 20%. Let's say that that's what I want my corn to be at. And you'll see kind of a similar timeline with information that kind of rolls through the date and the moisture content all the way down to when our target moisture will be close to reached or at reached position, which at this case would be August 7th. So our target moisture also will show up in this green bar here along the top, and we could change this around if we needed to, just on our own if we'd like. We could also print this off for our farmers. I'll show you what that looks like here. Oh, I thought I clicked it. They can do landscape. They can change it to whatever they'd like to as well. So yeah, so just kind of a nice option and a tool. This, helps project the ideal time to harvest so that they can schedule equipment out in the field and also find out when the crop would have the lowest moisture content, which we all know results in lower costs to dry down for storage. Okay, so that's the crop growth and harvest. And again, I'm only looking at this one field, and obviously it would change for different fields or different types of crops too. I'll click on soils here quickly. And we've got 2 tabs: soil moisture and topsoil temp, and soil composition. I'm going to click on soil composition here really quickly just to reiterate. When we were looking at that data that had all of the soil map unit data, this is basically the same thing, except it's just showing a snapshot of that particular field kind of cut out so it's a little bit easier to digest with some more information about it. It's more limited in info than that map unit soil pop-up data window, but maybe just more to the point too with our different types of soil that we've got here. If I go back to the soil moisture and topsoil temp, we also can look at our next 14 plus back to 100 days. This gets a little busy. I know I'm not going to click on too much stuff here, but we've got our legend along the bottom showing different temperature data, our moisture amounts, and then between 0 to 10 centimeters, sorry, and then 0 to 200 centimeters as well. And then if I wanted to look at different dates, I could see my temperature is on the left and my saturation point is on the right. I get some individual data for those particular days if I wanted to. And of course, I'm not going to print it out, but I'll show you that you guys can actually print that out too. Let's jump into historical weather. This is another section that we made a big change to and upgrade last late fall, early winter, and we've got some cool information to kind of go over. We have the option now to look for daily and hourly historical data. We've got a single date, 7-day range, or a custom range that can go back as far as we can see. And we've got different dates that you can actually search by. I'm going to do daily. I'm just going to do a 7-day range. I can go back because I am currently in 21. I'm going to go back to May 2020. Let's say I want to compare apples to oranges and see, well, not literally, but compare apples to oranges to see what was the weather like a year ago. Let's click on May 28th just to get kind of a option just to look out to tomorrow. Click search. Ta-da! And we've got a full forecast, or at least a historical forecast that was with some of the information from that day. This looks a lot like that 10-day forecast that we showed initially in our initial field conditions, plus those individual charts with daily topsoil temp and moisture, precipitation accumulation, and then the high and low dew point. I know from a livestock thing, this is a livestock representative too. This would be interesting for the high and low dew point too for cattle. Okay, so that's the basics. You can play around with any range that you'd like. And then, of course, I won't show you again. You can print if you need to here too. That's the basics of field insights from a computer agent portal standpoint. I am going to jump over to, in our last couple of minutes here, just to show you our growth model support. I just took this quick screenshot earlier. If I had one particular type of crop, let's say PRF, okay, we don't have that as a growth model supported crop. These top ones are, but let's say that I had that in my field card, it will prompt me and let me know which one the growth model component will support. And then of course there's can always use it just to show the data over the map, but just from some of the actual components like our crop growth and harvest, it may not work for that. Let's jump into our iPad. My iPad just timed out, so of course, right? But this is what we would see if we had logged into our iPad as a farmer. So if you've been on NAU Country Mobile before, the first thing that you would see as an agent is all of your farmers. And then once you click into them, you would see something similar to this with their policies and then their information. If I was farmer, in this case, John Doe, I would be able to see any of my last policies that I've had. And in this case, I've got at least 4 different years, all of my information. If I scroll down on that right-hand side of my iPad into this actions area, I would click account preferences, and I'm going to show you how, as a farmer, I can set frost alerts for my fields, or for my policy, I should say. First thing is you got to turn on the notification, or they would have to turn on the notification. It's just a toggle button that would turn from off to on or yes to no. They can do either way. And this little question mark here will actually bring them to, if they're connected to internet, will bring them to the tips and tricks based on frost, which I also have up on my, oh no, which I just timed out. Of course I did. That's okay. Which is one of the tips and tricks that they'd be able to see from the farmer perspective on what does, frost notifications look like? How do they have to use them? I will show us an example of that too. I'm just going to show you how it looks in the iPad first. Once they've clicked that toggle on, they could go back, click on one of their policies or policy years. I'm going to click on 20. And then in actions, I would click on field insights. And then our field cards would populate. This is again from the farmer perspective. And you'll see this little bell icon here in the upper right-hand corner. And you'll also notice that there's a bell icon for every single individual field. If I were to click on this bell icon in the upper right, and this will also appear in field insights from their perspective when they're in the actual application on their computer too. It'll be on their map. This pop-up window will show up. This is how they set. It's a two-step process. They have to set the notification first, and then they actually have to set it by the policy. So they would just click on this bell icon to enable frost alerts for this policy. It's just a radio button, and they'd click save. This entity preferences link will bring them back to that notification screen that they were allowed to toggle them on or off. So it is a two-step process, just to put that out there. Then from that point, they'd be able to click on any of these. If any of these bell icons turned red, it would be an active frost alert for that particular field. Let's say that I did that for the first time, it would say my alert setting is saved, and that would just be a visual indication that I've saved everything. So again, that two-step process. Then just from a field insights perspective, once I clicked on a field card, I'd be able to see my map layers here, the same thing that I was going over here earlier with us. Just showing what the data looks like over the top, and then clicking on the tooltip will show that information too. And then I've got my map components that appear the same way, almost exactly how they looked on the computer too. Again, here's our current conditions, 10-day forecast, planting. Okay, so let's go back to, I'm going to show you quickly what the frost alert will look like to your insured. If frost has had the potential of occurring in or around that field or that policy, and again, we're not talking about freeze alerts, we would get a notification that's out for 72 hours for that field. And it would also, or for that policy, they would see their policies affected, say that this is two different ones that they've got with us here with NAU Country, and both of them happen to be affected for this. They would be able to click these links, and it would bring them out to Field Insights to look at that particular policy and see which fields may be the most impacted by it. Other than that, mainly the main disclaimer that we always say, and that you could say to them too, is that it's it's just as an informational option, which is great. It works really well for our perennial crops, obviously, but it also is something interesting. We've had some really cold weather in the upper Midwest just recently, actually, where temperatures did drop close to freezing. So that frost potential in that 35 to 33 degree range was there for many locations, and people were already out in the field. So it's just kind of a heads up. If you can prepare, that'd be great. But it's not saying that, frost did occur. It's just saying that some alerts, came in. Some could be delayed based on mobile networks or email systems, and then just to rely on local news affiliates, radio, or other weather sources too. So that's just a basic look at what the frost alert looks like. And what was I going to show you finally here? It's the basics. I'm going to go back to dashboard. Oh, let me do this one last thing. We've only got 3 minutes here. I was going to just show you how it links up to Easy View Weather. Grab my, just deleted my 306. Promise there won't be a pop quiz or test here. Clicking around a lot on different things. If I wanted to say that I'm in my policy holder and we wanted to look at Easy View Weather from their policy view, I have that option. We've got them linked up together between Easy View Weather and Field Insights to bring it right over. So we're going to see if we've had any hail in this area. Maybe. I might not want to. While we wait for that, I'll show you. what our frost notifications look like. Again, when they actually see a frost alert, by the way, it'll pop up over the top of their map. It's just a hover bubble. And this is what that red bell looks like when there's an active alert. We haven't had a lot of frost, thankfully. So that's good news. I always call it no news is good news, right? Okay, so for this instance, and we've already shown Easy View Weather and other connections calls, but I just wanted to show you how it works, just basically kind of toggling between Field Insights and the Easy View Weather navigation. And just shows just from this field perspective, or from this farm perspective, that some of our fields may have been impacted by hail. So we could just as easily, once looking at Easy View Weather, jump back to Field Insights and check out more of the weather data that might have happened from that day. That is all I have. I know it was a ton of information, but I'll let you guys get back to your day. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, we hope to see you here as we go into the fall for more additional connection videos. And make sure you check out that recap email that we'll be sending out later this week. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.